Welcome to another installment of Deboroni Dinners. Tonight we're going to be making tacos. Today is actually my husband Marty's birthday. Happy birthday. You're 21 again for like the 100th time. Tacos are actually my son Princeton's favorite dinner. Everybody likes them, but this is what he requests most. My husband likes them as well, so we're going to be making this for dinner. I start off with a pack of ground beef. I like the one that's less fat. Usually it's going to be your ground sirloin, or they have another one that's like, I don't know, 98% fat free. You can just kind of look at it. The redder it is, the less fat that's in it. The reason I like using this is it actually tastes better and you get less shrinkage of the meat. And so that's, you know, really important when you're cooking these tacos. We're going to go ahead and open this package and just kind of dump it into the pan. A lot of times when you buy this redder meat, it seems like it's more expensive, but when you take into account that the less expensive one with the more fat in it shrinks and you lose most of your meat and your kitchen stinks like burnt fat, this is actually more cost effective in my opinion. Alrighty. I usually spray the pan, so I set the meat in there ahead of time, so we're just going to cheat and spray around it. It's not going to kill anything. Just kind of like that. Alrighty. I like to put Worcestershire sauce. It doesn't matter the brand you use. It gives it a nice flavor. The trick to making the meat taste good is to kind of season it before you actually start cooking it. That way the seasoning can kind of get into the meat as it's cooking. I like this garlic pepper seasoning. I don't put a whole lot because the garlic can kind of overwhelm it. I just kind of give it a few shakes there. I'm not going to use the salt, not for this step. I'll use some salt later on, you'll see, but I'm not going to use it because most of these spices have plenty of salt in it. We're going to use the, this is actually red fajita seasoning. It's basically a seasoned salt. We're going to use some black pepper. I have to be careful because this one likes to pour out kind of fast. We're going to use it in the cooking process too. We cut these onions off camera because, you know, seems like everybody should know how to cut onions. Anyway, we're going to carry this over to the stove. Okay, so we've transferred the pot to the stove. Again, we've got our hunk of ground meat in there. We've got onions, seasoning, and Worcestershire sauce. We're going to go ahead and turn the stove on. This is a double burner side. I'm going to turn it on about 6. That's kind of a medium type heat. We don't want to cook the meat too fast. We don't want to cook it too slow. I kind of chop it up with the little spatula turner here. And just kind of chop it around like that so the seasoning gets in there real good. Meat is browning. You can see it's, you know, it's still got a little bit of red in there, so we're going to cook it a little bit more. I just kind of stirred around in here. I'm going to actually add more Worcestershire sauce. I kind of cook by how things look and how they smell, and it doesn't quite smell spicy enough, so I don't know if that makes sense to anybody else, but I'm going to add a little bit more of the seasoning salt. It's red fajita seasoning. You can use, you know, pretty much any kind of seasoning salt. I just like this one. And then we're going to stir that around a little bit more. Get that nice and brown in there. I just kind of chop it around in here. It seems like I like to chop things. Okay, we're back now. The meat is good and brown. I just kind of toss it around with this spatula a bit. You can see it's good and brown. We're going to drain that, but if you look, this isn't really fat. It's mainly moisture from the Worcestershire sauce I put in there. It's not really fat, but we're going to drain it just in case. This is a really good cut of meat. You can tell that, you know, most of the meat is still here. It didn't really shrink very much. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and drain this into the colander. I like this one. It kind of fits over the sink. We're going to just scrape the meat into it. And just kind of push it around in here and make sure all that excess juice goes out of it. I don't think it was much fat. You can see that most of the meat that we started out with is still here. That's again why I like using the cut of ground beef that has less fat. So we've drained our meat. We're going to go ahead and stick it back in the same pot. Get all that in there, just kind of scrape it around. Again, we don't like to waste that. Plus you have to figure out what to do with it when we leave it in there. Easier to clean up if you get it all in here. Okay, so we've got our meat back in our pot. I like to take a little bit of fire roasted diced, I guess they're diced peppers. They look like that. And I like to add that. It gives it a little bit of bulk. That way it stretches it a little bit further. Plus it gives it a really nice flavor. It's not super spicy because the tomatoes are fire roasted. And so we've got that in there. We'll just kind of flick it around like that in the pan. Mix it up in there. You see it gives it a little bit of bulk, plus you're getting some vegetables, and it's going to taste really good. And then we've got about a cup of water. I don't measure that exact. I may even add more based on how it looks when I pour it in the pot. But usually you want about a cup of water. We're going to add our seasoning. I always kind of mix it ahead before I stick it in the pot. You could sprinkle it over that meat, but I like it to be mixed up pretty good. So I have my little whisk here. I added the taco seasoning to the water that we have in this cup. We're going to give it a good stir. And we're going to pour it in here. I'm going to just kind of move it around. That seems to be plenty of liquid. So I'm not going to add any more water. You know, again, I eyeball it. If it looks like it needs more water, I add it. If it needs less, too late. I've already stuck it in there. So, and if you cook it long enough, it'll kind of cook some of the water out of there if you put too much. Okay, so we've moved this back over to the stove. We've mixed our fire roasted tomatoes in there. We've got our taco seasoning, which we pre-mixed with the water ahead of time with our whisk. I love Worcestershire sauce when I'm cooking. I'm going to go ahead and add a couple more drops to that and stir it in there real good. Okay, so the meat is cooking pretty well. It's nice and bubbly. I went ahead and turned the stove down to 2. That way it can continue cooking, but it's not going to overcook. And so while this is kind of cooking on low, we're going to go ahead and put our taco shells in the oven. We're going to turn it on to 350. The oven's at 350. We're going to go ahead and put the hard taco shells in there. We're also going to cook some of the soft taco shells. I have my comal here. I'm going to take a little bit of Grandpa Gilmore's salt and sprinkle it on there. This isn't really his salt. I just like to tease him about salt. And the reason we're putting this on there, it kind of keeps the tortilla from sticking. My brother-in-law Albert actually taught us that trick. It works pretty good. So my son-in-law Glenn actually makes homemade tortillas, but since he's the cameraman today, he's not able to do that. So we bought these nice ones from H-E-B. And these ones will have to do. We'll go ahead and put those on there. Back. The meat is still cooking nicely. Again, we have it on low. It's pretty much cooked. We just want to keep it heated so we can go ahead and cook our tortilla, our taco shells and things like that. We're going to go ahead and flip it. It's nice and brown on that side. Notice it didn't stick to the pan. That salt trick really helps with that. I let it get heated pretty well on one side, but I don't leave it real long on the other side. So we're going to go ahead and take that off the comal. It is heated. We're going to stick it in our tortilla warmer and place the top on that, and that'll keep that nice and warm while we cook the rest of our food. I'm going to go ahead and stick another tortilla on there. We don't have to add more salt. There's still salt on there. Again, that's not to flavor the tortilla. It's just to keep it from sticking. We're going to check our taco shells. We had it in for 5 minutes. They look like they're nicely brown. I'm going to go ahead and turn the oven off and leave them in there. That'll keep them heated without getting them too dark. There we go. Alrighty, so that camal's nice and hot. I'm going to turn it down slightly because it's cooking the tortillas much faster. And then we'll just keep stacking them up in here. We're not going to make you watch the whole video while I flip tortillas, but that's basically the gist of it. Okay, so our meat is done. We're going to start passing out the shells here and filling them. We're going to start with the traditional taco shells. I had them in the oven at 350 for roughly 5 minutes, and then I just kind of turned the oven off and let them stay in there to stay heated. They didn't burn or anything because the oven was off, but they're still heated from the oven. And so we're going to place one in the taco plate. That one's broken. We're going to get a nicer one and place it here in the taco plate. And then we'll just set this here for now. We're also going to get a white tortilla, the flour. A lot of people don't care for the corn tortillas, so they like the soft flour tortilla. So we'll put one like that. This is a nice little warmer to keep them warm as you do them. And then we're also going to do a special taco for, we have family members that are doing the low carb diet. Obviously I'm not one of them, maybe I should, but we have several family members that are very successful with the low carb diet. These are lettuce scoops, so we're going to use one of these for a shell. That way they get a flavorful meal, but they're not having to have the carbs from a shell. So we will, these are pre-washed. So we will stick one of those in there. And that's kind of a nice take on a traditional taco. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and fill our various types of shells. I like using a slotted spoon. That way it gets some of the juice out of there and it doesn't make your taco so soggy. The nice thing is you can just put a little bit of meat in here because you're going to fill that up with lettuce, tomatoes, probably onions, anything you like in there. But you can see that. Next we're going to do our soft flour tortilla. A lot of people like the soft flour ones. They don't, not everybody cares for the crispy, and some like both. So we're going to put your meat in there. And this is the one that I think is really unique. Again, it's anybody can have it, but a lot of times people are on the keto or low carb diets, and they don't get a lot of different choices with food, or maybe they do, but this is kind of a flavorful thing. So we're going to use that as a shell, and we're going to give them a little bit more meat on this one, and then that's going to serve as a taco shell. Okay, so we're going to move these over to the prepping area and go ahead and add the dressing, like the cheese and tomatoes, lettuce, things of that nature. Okay, so now we're going to dress these up a bit. A lot of people put the cheese on last. I like to put it on first because that way it can kind of melt into the meat. The meat's still hot, so we're going to go ahead and add a little bit of cheese to each one. You can do it however you like. Again, I kind of like to do it this way. That way the cheese has a chance to stick to it. And then we're going to dress up our unique little taco leaf over here. I'm going to give them a little bit more cheese because people that are following the low carb, typically they want a little bit more protein on there. So there we go with that. You can put whatever you want on there. I'm going to go ahead and do the tomatoes next. We're going to start with this green leaf because I just happened to reach over this way, so we're going to do that. I like to use a spoon. You can use your fingers if you want. I just, you know, when you have a lot of people over, it's not really a good idea to have everybody's fingers in your food. So we are using a spoon, and you can see how easy the ingredients go on there. Some people like the onions on there. I did cook onions into the meat. We're going to go ahead just for to make it look pretty. We're going to put the onions in here. Again, not everybody's going to care for that, but for the purpose of the video, we'll show with the onions. That gives it a lot of nice flavor there, and it adds a pop of color, which is nice also. So we've done that. Then we're going to add lettuce. I kind of cheated and got the already shredded lettuce. You can sit there and cut up a head of lettuce if you want. I just thought it would be easier to do it this way. You can put as much or as little lettuce as you want on there. And then we're going to add lettuce to our lettuce, basically. How about that? And then you can put whatever. I had made some guacamole in another video. That would be really good on here. We've got this sour cream. We're going to put a little dollop of sour cream on there. A big dollop on that one. A little bit on this one. Maybe. Okay. That one didn't want to cooperate, so yeah, there we go. Okay, so we'll stick that spoon there so we're not mixing lettuce back in with our sour cream. A lot of times if I'm not on video, I'll just take a tortilla chip and kind of mush that in there. Just so you can see on the camera, we've got 3 types of tacos going on here. We've got the traditional taco shell that we heated in the oven. We've got the soft taco that we heated on the comal. Again, we salted the comal so the tortilla wouldn't stick. You just basically flip it over on both sides, let it get a little brown. And then again, this is for anybody who wants it, but it's particularly nice for people that are on the low carb keto type diet. And it looks very tasty and they get a lot of flavor there.